What if the person you trusted the most, the kind stranger who offered you help, was hiding a horrifying secret? Imagine a man who seemed to have it all: charm, intelligence, and an easy smile. That was Ted Bundy, a man who looked nothing like the monster he truly was. In the 1970s, Bundy shocked the world by luring dozens of women to their tragic ends. His weapon? Not a gun, not a knife, but his charm. He pretended to be injured, asked for help, and gained their trust, all to lead them into his deadly trap. This isn't just a story of a serial killer, it's a chilling reminder of how appearances can deceive us. Stay with us as we unravel the dark secrets of a man who proved that evil often wears the most unsuspecting disguise. Ted Bundy, just the name sends chills down spines. A man so ordinary, yet so calculated, his story continues to haunt the world decades after his death. Bundy wasn't the typical image of a monster. He was educated, well-spoken, and charming, a man who could easily win anyone's trust. And that's what made him so dangerous. In the 1970s, Bundy committed a string of murders so horrific, they left an indelible mark on history. But what's most chilling isn't just the number of lives he took, it's the way he blended into society, hiding his true self behind a carefully crafted facade. Bundy wasn't a shadowy figure lurking in the dark. He was a law student, a political campaign volunteer, even a suicide hotline worker. He walked among us, proving that evil doesn't always look the way we expect it to. Today, we'll explore Bundy's complex life, his beginnings, his crimes, the investigation that finally caught him, and the impact his case has had on the world. This isn't just a story about a killer, it's a story about trust, deception, and the darkness that can hide in plain sight. Ted Bundy was born on November 24, 1946, in Burlington, Vermont, into a family shrouded in secrets. His mother, Eleanor Louise Cowell, was just 22 years old and unmarried, a situation deeply stigmatized at the time. To avoid scandal, Bundy was raised by his grandparents, believing his mother was his sister. When he eventually learned the truth, it left him feeling betrayed and angry, a crack in his foundation that would only grow with time. Despite the turbulence of his early years, Bundy appeared outwardly normal. He was described as shy but intelligent, with an interest in politics and a sharp wit. Yet beneath this exterior, troubling signs began to emerge. As a teenager, Bundy was drawn to voyeurism and petty theft, often stealing items not out of necessity but for the thrill of control. Bundy's inability to form genuine emotional connections was another early red flag. He was a master manipulator, even in his youth, creating the image of a perfect son and student while hiding his darker impulses. His charm allowed him to blend in, masking the growing storm within. By the time he reached adulthood, Bundy had perfected his ability to appear charismatic and trustworthy. He attended the University of Washington, earning a degree in psychology, an irony not lost on those who would later analyze his crimes. But even as he seemed to be building a promising future, Bundy's predatory tendencies deepened. His fascination with control and power over others had grown from small infractions to something far more dangerous. What appeared to be the makings of a successful man was, in reality, the foundation of one of history's most notorious serial killers. Ted Bundy's killing spree wasn't driven by sudden rage, it was a cold, methodical plan that stretched over several years, beginning in 1974. His method was hauntingly precise, carefully selecting victims, manipulating their trust, and carrying out the crimes with a chilling sense of control. The first confirmed murder was that of 18-year-old Linda Healy, a college student who disappeared in January 1974. She was last seen leaving her apartment to go to bed, and Bundy's meticulous nature is evident in how he executed the crime, kidnapping her in the dead of night, quietly, without a trace. Over the following months, Bundy's crimes escalated. His next victims, including several young women from the University of Washington, were similarly targeted. These women were all white, college-aged, with long hair parted in the middle, which Bundy seemed to favor. Bundy used a variety of tactics to approach his victims. He would often pretend to be injured, feigning the need for assistance, or he would pretend to be someone else, sometimes even an authority figure. This made it easier for him to gain the trust of his victims, who saw him as harmless and in need of help. He would often lure women into secluded spots before overpowering them, making it nearly impossible for them to escape. His method of killing was brutal. His victims were often bludgeoned or strangled, and in many cases, Bundy would return to the crime scenes to engage in acts of further violence or desecration. Bundy seemed to enjoy the control he had over his victims, but it wasn't enough to just end their lives. His actions became increasingly depraved, leaving law enforcement struggling to connect the dots. By 1975, Bundy's confidence had grown, and he expanded his crimes across state lines. As he moved from Washington to Utah, and later Colorado and Florida, his method remained the same. He targeted young women, often alone at night. His ability to evade capture left police baffled and gave Bundy a false sense of security. It wasn't until he made a critical mistake, getting arrested in Utah after a routine traffic stop, that authorities began to piece together the true scale of his crimes. Ted Bundy's calculated, relentless pursuit of power through violence is a chilling reminder of how a predator can blend in, manipulate, and strike when least expected. His ability to appear normal allowed him to prey on the unsuspecting, leading to a horrifying series of murders that would only end when he was finally caught. Ted Bundy's reign of terror continued for years, with authorities struggling to link him to the gruesome murders across multiple states. But in 1975, his fate would begin to unravel when he was arrested for the first time. It all started in Utah, where Bundy's luck ran out. In August of that year, a police officer stopped a car with a suspicious driver, Ted Bundy. Inside the vehicle, authorities discovered burglary tools and items that were later linked to the abductions. Bundy was arrested on suspicion of kidnapping, which would eventually lead to charges for the brutal murders that had plagued the region. His arrest seemed like a breakthrough, but it was just the beginning of a much longer ordeal. At first, Bundy's connection to the murders wasn't immediately clear, but investigators were quick to notice the similarities in the cases. Bundy's ability to manipulate the people around him, especially women, had made him a master of deception. But now, with mounting evidence linking him to the crimes, authorities began building a case against him. However, Bundy's escape from justice wasn't over. In June 1977, while awaiting trial in Colorado, Bundy managed to pull off his first escape. He had been granted a brief period of freedom in the courthouse, and during this time, he slipped out of the building unnoticed. His escape sent shockwaves through law enforcement. Bundy was now more dangerous than ever, and his notoriety began to spread nationwide. His first escape, however, wasn't his last. Just months later, Bundy made another daring escape, this time from a jail in Glenwood Springs, Colorado. This time, he was able to scale a wall in his cell, disappearing into the wilderness. He would remain on the run for several months, evading authorities as he traveled across the country, committing more crimes along the way. In Florida, Bundy's murderous spree escalated to horrifying new levels. In January 1978, he attacked 2 women at the Chi Omega sorority house in Tallahassee, Florida, killing 2 and injuring others. He was on a rampage, and the police were under enormous pressure to capture him. The situation became even more urgent when Bundy abducted a 12-year-old girl, Kimberly Leach, in February 1978. Her abduction and murder would finally prove to be his undoing. Bundy's final capture came in February 1978, when he was arrested in Pensacola, Florida, after a routine traffic stop. The police officer who stopped him had no idea that he was apprehending one of the most notorious serial killers in U.S. history. Bundy's capture was the result of a relentless manhunt, which finally ended with his face-to-face confrontation with the law. By the time Bundy was caught, he had evaded capture for years. His escapes had made him one of the most dangerous and elusive criminals in American history. But his final arrest would mark the beginning of the end for Bundy's murderous spree and lead to his eventual trial and conviction. Ted Bundy's trial wasn't just a legal proceeding, it was a media sensation that captivated the nation and brought unprecedented attention to the dark reality of serial murder. His trial, held in 1979 for the murders of 2 women in Florida, became one of the first nationally televised criminal cases in U.S. history. This allowed millions of viewers to witness Bundy's bizarre behavior in court, turning the trial into a spectacle that would forever alter the way the public viewed crime and the criminal justice system. From the start, Bundy's arrogance was evident. Despite being represented by public defenders, he insisted on defending himself, an incredibly rare and bold decision. His decision to represent himself gave him a platform, allowing him to challenge witnesses, cross-examine experts, and argue his case. This move only added to his notoriety, giving him the chance to control the narrative in a way that suited his manipulative personality. But it wasn't just Bundy's actions in court that drew attention, it was his physical appearance, dressed in a suit, his carefully combed hair, and his calm demeanor in the face of grave charges made him appear almost normal, even charming. For many viewers, it was difficult to reconcile the image of this well-groomed man with the horrific crimes he had committed. The trial also featured the testimony of key witnesses, including victims who had survived Bundy's attacks. The most significant evidence came from bite marks found on the victims, which were conclusively linked to Bundy's dental impressions. Despite his calculated efforts to maintain control, Bundy couldn't escape the overwhelming evidence against him. The media coverage only grew as the trial progressed, and Bundy's trial became a national obsession, forever cementing his place in criminal history. Ted Bundy's execution on January 24, 1989, marked the final chapter in a story that had captivated the nation for over a decade. He was put to death in Florida's electric chair after being convicted for the brutal murders of 2 young women, Lisa Levy and Margaret Bowman, at the Chi Omega sorority house in Tallahassee, Florida. Despite being convicted of several murders, Bundy was never officially charged with all of his crimes. Over the years, he confessed to killing 30 women, though investigators suspect there may have been many more victims. What makes his case even more haunting is that Bundy was active for years, eluding the law with a combination of charm, deception, and the ability to blend in seamlessly with society. In the weeks leading up to his execution, Bundy's behavior became even more erratic. He offered detailed confessions to authorities, describing his crimes with chilling precision. Some have speculated that Bundy's confessions were a way for him to reclaim control, knowing that his death was imminent. But his death was, in many ways, a quiet end to a life defined by violence and manipulation. Bundy's execution sparked mixed reactions. Many were relieved that justice had finally been served for his victims. Others, particularly in the media, expressed concern over the ethical implications of the death penalty. Regardless of the debates, Bundy's legacy has lived on as a symbol of the dangers of a hidden evil, a reminder that the most terrifying predators can sometimes appear the most normal. Beyond his death, Bundy's case reshaped criminal profiling and the way law enforcement approaches serial killers. Bundy's psychological profile and his ability to blend into society taught investigators valuable lessons about the complexities of human behavior, making him one of the most studied criminals in history. His legacy, though grim, has had a lasting impact on the criminal justice system. The Ted Bundy case remains one of the most chilling reminders of the dangers that can lurk behind a seemingly normal facade. Bundy's ability to blend in, his charm, intelligence, and outward normalcy, shocked the world. He was a master manipulator, capable of deceiving those around him and hiding his true nature until it was too late. From Bundy's case, we've learned critical lessons about the psychology of serial killers, the importance of profiling, and how we must never let our guard down in the face of charm and manipulation. Bundy showed us that predators can appear to be the most trustworthy individuals, people you would never suspect. His case also led to advances in forensic science and criminal investigation techniques, shaping how law enforcement approaches serial crimes today. Though Bundy's legacy is a dark one, it has paved the way for stronger protections and better detection of future predators. Thank you for joining us as we uncovered the chilling story of Ted Bundy, one of the most infamous serial killers in history. His case serves as a stark reminder of the dangers that can exist behind a polished exterior, teaching us the importance of staying vigilant and questioning what we often take for granted. If you found this story both unsettling and fascinating, be sure to subscribe to our channel for more true crime investigations. We dive deep into the lives of notorious criminals, the investigations that brought them down, and the lessons we can learn from their dark legacies. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an update, and share this video with friends who might find these stories as captivating and thought-provoking as you did.